Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, well-being, and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal well-being.
Welcome to the 198th episode of the award-winning Diverse Minds podcast. This month's theme is all about men's health for Men's Health Month. And to join me today to talk about transactional versus transformational, how that impacts mental well-being, is Mark V. Smith. Mark specialises in speaking from his personal experiences of trials and tribulations in life. His desire to chronicle choices and share the journey of his life resonates with everyone at our core personally and professionally. He served as the Vice President of MACCA, the Middle Atlantic Career Counselling Association, and former RESEA, Reemployment Services and Eligibility Assessment facilitator for the Department of Labour in the USA. In those previous roles, he used his gift of sharing words of perseverance that helped individuals push forward through adversity. Mark has received standing ovations when he spoke on topics such as growth, purpose, legacy at venues across the United States. He's an alumnus of The Ohio State University, and he now resides in Maryland. He has a strong passion for mentoring, and currently he's a nationally acclaimed award-winning STRIVE, which stands for Support Training Results Invaluable Employees, trainer at the Center for Urban Families in Baltimore, Maryland. His teachings and guidance have changed the lives of thousands of men and women, not only in Maryland, but nationwide. And he has this brilliant podcast, The Process, in which he outlines and breaks down situations using brilliant, rememberable acronyms we all go through, and offers insights on methods to weather the storms in life. Known for these clever use of acronyms within his messages, Mark gives his listeners a way to remember key points as we grow forward. And Mark's vision statement of your why is greater than your situation, which is part of your process, can give us all the perspective that we are always growing. And I'm so looking forward to speaking to him about this more. Mark, a huge welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to spend some time with you and the listeners, and we're just going to have some fun today.
Oh, no, it's so lovely. And it's always lovely to have American guests who make a massive effort to see me in the morning. So once again, I'm really grateful. So I've just read out your bio, but I think it's really lovely for listeners to know a little bit more about what you're working on at the moment.
Wow. It seems like I'm working from sun up to sundown. I am currently working on, at this point, it'd be season 9 of the process. So have taken just what a dream of mine, something I've always had a passion about sharing ideas, gates, I like to say blueprints of how individuals, not only for myself, but how other individuals have come to me and talked about how they overcome some obstacles in their lives. So I'm continuing to work on that. I'm trying to, as I say, be a work in progress. So every single day of my life, I'm trying to be better. I live by the example, or live by the adage that just do 1%. If I challenge myself to get 1% better each day, man, over a 30-day period of time, I've amassed some things that I couldn't get to before. And then if you challenge that to do it for a year, man, you're starting to separate yourself from a lot of other people. It's just I'm working to drive myself and put myself in a position to where I'm continuously changing lives every single day. So that would probably be in a nutshell what I'm working on right now.
And that's very lovely, I think, because often we think we have to do things quickly, we have to do more. We know, as Black global majority diaspora communities, there's extra pressures on us. And that idea of that incremental 1%. What kinds of things can people be doing for that 1%? You can only speak from your perspective, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And I know you run programs, so what do you talk about with people?
Just opening your mind. I start with opening your mind. A lot of times we speak just to be heard, instead of speaking with some validity or something like that, and challenging our mind to grow. I'm a big proponent of writing things down. I mean, man, if you can see my office, I have Post-it notes here. I have notepads full of stuff, especially when I teach or when I start to write or prepare a message, because I know that the mind will forget, but paper won't. So every time I look at that, I become accountable. I become accountable to what I wrote. Nobody gave it to me. It's something that I wrote down because I felt it was going to be important to me and to get to the levels that I want to get to. So I would say, number one, you need to have an open mind. Be willing to embrace change, right? We are so tough to that word, change. And I say change is hard at first, messy in the middle, but rewarding at its conclusion. And I don't think it's any of us who have not gone through change and challenges inside our life that change hasn't felt that criteria. So open mind, be willingness to change, and lastly, do it with a positive attitude. Right? It's so easy to be negative about a situation that's coming to our world, or quote unquote rock our world. But we have to do it with a positive attitude, thinking and believing that I am being paused because I am tasked to learn something here. What is it that I need to learn? What is it I need to embrace? So if I have that open mind, if I'm going to embrace the change and I do it with a positive attitude, then the end result is going to be a result that will be ultimately beneficial for the individual.
Thank you. It's just really lovely. And you've kind of answered my next question, which is, how did you become a motivational speaker? And I think I know, because you speak from the heart and you're really powerful. But what was your journey to becoming a motivational speaker? When did you know you wanted to be one? And how did you get to be one? Because again, we know in the UK especially that Black global majority diaspora voices are not given the space that white majority voices are. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Well, this journey started when I actually lost my job. I was working as a career development specialist back in 2018 for a for-profit school, and I had just did the traditional thing. I got in my office, went and delivered some powerful, what I thought was powerful words to some men and women to talk about resume development, to talk about dressing for the job that you want, not the job that you have. To always understanding that you're always being watched, no matter where you go and what you do. And I was really drilling home a message that day on how your resume gets you hired, but your interview gets you fired. Meaning you go in the interview and you're not prepared. You haven't done your research on a company. You're fumbling with your words, but more importantly, you don't know and you can't explain your resume. So I got done with that. Went back into my office and I get a knock on the door, and it's our campus president. And he says, "Mark, I need to see you in my office." And me, like anybody else, you're thinking, "Oh, Jesus, what did I do? What did I say something wrong? Is there something going on? What's going on?" So, but when I walk in there, there's not only myself, but it's all the other leadership team there at the campus. And I go to the office, and they tell us that they're closing their doors, and not just for this particular in a month or 2 weeks. It's saying at 5:00 today. So a race of emotion went through my mind. Like, one, was I good enough? Two, why this have to happen to me? What's my next move? Because we just talked about change a minute ago and how important it is to embrace change. Well, I had to be a living testament about embracing change. So I had already started writing. So I had been writing back and forth for an extended period of time. So my wife encouraged me. She said, "Mark, you have a lot of powerful information to share. Here's the time to where I want you to take a few moments for yourself and try to put everything in a chronological order so you can share it with individuals. But do it in a way that suits you. Do it in a way that makes sense to you, that it will also make sense to others." And I did. So I started with a simple YouTube video back in January. That was January 15th, 2020. And I entitled it AIR, AI. But I said, but I'm going to do something different with additional R. So AIRR. And I said that stood for accountability, integrity, responsibility, and respect. So I wanted to give the world, or give everybody, a foundation. We can go from A to B, but a lot of times we still have to touch, or I like to say, go back to base camp, or have that home base to where we can come back to. And I felt those four components, accountability, integrity, responsibility, and respect, would start and lead my messaging and lead my podcast and lead my speeches down a path toward progression of what I call the process. And it did. It turned off and started out very well. I had 100 and some views on it, and which was okay for me, because I didn't expect that. And a good friend of mine came to me, David Bynum, who works he's actually the general manager as well as the owner of Star 107 FM, based out of now they've moved to Orlando. He really told me that he really liked my messaging. He's watched a couple videos of mine and wanted to know if I would bring my content to the radio station. And at that time, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. This is really not something that I don't know if I'm cut up for it. And he said, I'm gonna tell you this, Mark. This is your only shot. It's the only time I'm gonna make this offer to you. Either you do it or you do what you like to talk about, and that's pass over opportunity repeatedly. Stay with a poor mindset. And I said, okay, no guts, no glory, let's do it. And that was July of 2020. And I'm now into my third year on that radio station. My messages are carried on 2 other radio stations across the country right now. And I'm living a good life. I have the ability to not only work with individuals every single day and train them on positive mindset and workforce development, but I get a chance to meet some great people. I get a chance to dialogue with people and share messages that individuals can resonate to through the usage of acronyms. So that's how it started, and that's where I am right now.
Oh, what a brilliant story, and turning it around like that. Thank you, Mark. And that can't have been easy. What a shock to be told that you're, 5 o'clock today, that's it, we're closing. What happened to the school then?
Somebody else has moved into it.
Okay.
It was 46 campuses across the country. They shut their doors.
Oh, that's so sad.
Mm-hmm. I thought of it as being sad, but right now that was one of the greatest blessings in my life, because I'd have still been there. I'd have still been doing the same thing. I'd still just be a career development specialist. Now that's an important role, but it wouldn't have challenged me to be the best that I could be. I use that adage, comfort is a casualty of growth. I got comfortable. And a lot of times we do need those shakeups in life sometimes that we don't understand why they're happening. But we do have to take solace, again, open mind, take solace that there is a message or something is being taught that we need to just hold on and embrace.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really powerful, actually. It's really making me tear up because it's very powerful. And so on that, what does the term transactional versus transformational mean to you? And what's made you base your podcast, the process, about this concept?
Wow. I go back and look at a lot of things that I did and said in my life. And, Les Brown once said, once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. And a lot of times I just said things just to say things. I didn't care how the reaction that I got. I didn't care if it, quite frankly, if somebody got annoyed with it. It just wasn't my mindset. My mindset was about what's in it for me. How am I going to benefit? But it took several instances. I go back and I talk about a lot of times when I speak, the messages were always there. I tell a story a lot of times about my very first job when I was 14 years old, when Mr. Robinson was the supervisor of an organization called Youth Conservation Corps. And you had to be picked at 14 years old to clear, to make walking trails and paths, which encompass a lot of poison ivy, a lot of poison oak, a lot of heat, a lot of sunburn. But I also, the older I got, I realized that what I was being taught there and cleaning away that brush is the same thing that we all do in life. We clean away debris to create a path of success, or a path that we choose to walk through, either with ourselves, with our family, with our friends. But we're working on consistent relationships, just like you're working consistently to clear an area. So I thought about that as being something, and embracing that. At the beginning, it was the fact of, hey, it's a check. So that's transactional. I'm doing the work of service, you're paying me. On through some of the jobs that I had. I worked at Honda of America at one point. And, you're on an assembly line, which is fast paced. At the end of the day, I'm doing it for that check. I'm doing it because I want to get paid. I'm doing it because it's good money and I have my family. So at some point in my life, I would say it was around 40 years old, my 40th birthday, I realized that, Mark, there's truly more to life than looking at it from just one lens. You need to expand your horizon. There's another speaker that once said, he said, many people can see, but not many have vision. And when I really broke that down and thought about it, that's right. I could see my future, but I didn't have the vision of my future. And the vision of my future had to be, I had to leave the mindset that I had of what's in it with me, and then go to the mindset of how can I help you? What is it that I can say to you to make you better? Because if I make you better, guess what? You change it. You change with the dynamics of your own life. You change your family's life, and you're building a legacy going forward. And we all want to leave a legacy. So that's what about the time I came up with the acronym and I wrote legacy. I wrote a message on legacy. And I said that was leaders exemplify greatness among choices over the years. And so all the choices that we made, all the actions that we've taken, this is what helped build us to who we are, from living a life that was transactional to now living a life that's transformational.
Thank you. I love the analogies about clearing the path and doing it as a job, and then thinking, well, actually, we're clearing, your words, we're clearing debris from our own path. And some of us get stuck. We don't want to do it. We stop. We sit on the slope. Maybe we sit on the verge for too long. We don't know how to get back on the path. Yeah, lots of amazing metaphors and things are coming to my mind. So when we think about people who experience struggle, and in particular, we're talking about Men's Health Month, and my podcast is all about the Black global majority diaspora experiences. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges to move from this transactional mindset when you feel really stuck? Maybe you're experiencing mental ill health, cost of living crisis, you're caring, it's all a lot. How do you move from that transactional day to day to thinking, okay, I might not have control over everything, but what is going to move me to the transformational?
Man, I one of the biggest jumps in my life, or one of the biggest eye openers in my life, that I realized that, well, number one, your health is important, is a true story with my father. My father died, passed relatively early, 62 years old. He had prostate cancer. Again, for African American men, that is one of the leading causes of death, and one of the leading cancers out there in that community is prostate cancer. So I implore all of you to please, continue to get your regular checkups on that. But the passing of him early taught me the fact that life is really, really short. I mean, time stands still for nobody, and we all get 86,400 seconds. That's it. There's no carryover. There's no advance on it. There's nothing. When our time is over, our time is over. So while we're in this realm of time, while we're in this space, we need to do collectively what we can do to take care of ourselves, whether that's being involved inside of a men's group, or a focus group, or a group that's there to help build you and support you. Support is huge. I know I didn't have a lot of a true basis of a support group when I lost my dad, because it crushed me. However, it was just challenging my own faith and surrounding myself with some different people who had lost parents when they were particularly quote unquote young, or individuals who had kind of walked the walk that I had. So I would just encourage everybody to live your life to the fullest. Don't be afraid to take those necessary steps. One, to make sure that you're healthy. Two, to make sure you're doing what you need to do to secure your family. And three, and most importantly, that you're getting to a place where you're building and leaving a legacy. You're doing things every single day that are going to make you and your family healthier and better, to create the generational life that you want.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And it can be really small things, can't it? So if you feel you haven't got anyone to talk to, we have lots of free helplines in this country. It could be putting a message out to a friend and saying, I just need someone to listen to me, and knowing that there's small choices that you can make. And I know at the moment, people can't leave their jobs. Maybe you don't have a job. And I'm not saying you can just go and get one. That is not what I mean. But who can help you find something, get some interim work? Are there people that will, like you said, look through your CV or resume? Think about that we have schemes in this country as well that people will give free suits if you're going for a job interview. So don't forget, and there's no shame in that. And also, you don't have to broadcast it. You can ask for the help and you don't have to broadcast it. It can be personal to you, but knowing that you're taking those small steps to look after yourself.
That's right. That is so true.
Yeah. And then if we think about workplaces, and I don't know, I'm laughing when I say this, because I just think some workplaces are great, as we know, and others I just feel like they're really in retrograde. But what can workplaces do to introduce this idea of transformational leadership, but also mindset, more for me, into their workplaces, do you think, Mark?
Wow. It starts with listening. It really starts with listening to your employees. I know that one of the organizations or one of the nonprofits here in the Baltimore area that I do a lot of work with, they have from their CEO to their chief operating officer to the director of marketing, they have weekly meetings and weekly informational sessions that they have with their employees just to get their feedback, just to hear exactly how things are going with them. So, and that keeps them motivated. The same individuals, this organization was established back in 1999. And believe it or not, 80% of the individuals who started there are still there. That's amazing. So that tells you that they are listening to their employees, but more importantly, the culture, what they've created is something that is special that a lot of people want to be involved with. So, and they do that by, number one, practicing mindfulness. They do have that open mindfulness sessions that employees can take advantage of. They create different types of outings for them to do team builders, for individuals to work together, get a step away from the organization. Now, is that reality in some of your major corporations? Maybe not. However, find a way to actually involve, get your staff and get your team members involved in things that they don't traditionally get a chance to do. We're collectively, everybody breeds and wants success, but nobody wants success if they're not being heard. So I believe that, again, that is one of the first steps is dialogue, having dialogue with your staff, having dialogue with your team. It builds motivation, it builds character, and it builds drive to make sure the organization is top notch. And I'm proud to be associated with them. I'm proud to do some speaking and some work for them and with them and some of the other organizations around the DC and Maryland area.
Yeah, brilliant. And what do you think is the resistance around listening? Because I think you're absolutely right, but I feel there's so much resistance around truly listening to people. And I think maybe it links to the point you said earlier where people speak to get their point across, to make sure they're the center of attention. But I feel like the shift has been so pronounced in the last 10 years. What can we do to get back to that listening mindset and really hearing what people have to say?
Man, you got to come in with the open mind. You have to relinquish the I, and always relinquish the I and look at the we. How can we build this? What can we do to make it better? It's not an I thing anymore. And so many people lose that concept that nobody can do anything alone. You can't. You need other people to help you get there, to get to where you need to go. And it's sad to say, but the lens of social media, the lens of society, these types of portrayals harness people from actually growing to that. They see something, they think that they can accomplish it by themselves, but it takes a team. So we've got to get to the point to where we relinquish the I in almost everything that we do and look at the we. That's going from transactional to going to transformational. I is transactional, we is transformational. And organizations, companies, small businesses, they all grow when they can focus on the we and not the I.
Yeah, brilliant. And I also think about, collectivist cultures and how the I is very Eurocentric actually in the workplace, but the we is much more African American, BIPOC in Britain, global majority diaspora. So yeah, it really ties into that for me. So Mark, you're an incredibly busy person. You do a lot, you give a lot. How do you look after your own mental health? What are your top 3 tips that you'd like to share with the listeners today?
Wow, there's a poem by John D. LeMay. It's called The Habit Poem. And I encourage everybody, if you've never read it, read that poem. John D. LeMay, The Habit Poem. And I read that poem every single day because it redefines to me that I have a good majority of control of my own success. I believe that I control the thoughts I think, the actions I take, and the visions that I see. That's all on me. So when I wake up in the morning, 4:30 every morning, I don't touch my phone. I don't touch, and I have my personal phone and I have a phone for business. I don't touch either one of those phones till right around 6 or 6:30. I will go downstairs and I'm blessed to have a gym that we built in my basement. So I'll go down there and I just kind of relax and go through and get a good workout in. I come back in and I, may read a motivational quote. 99% of the time, I'll read something motivational or read something that's in my office that I've written, and then I'm able to kind of deal with whatever is going to happen. I'll pick up the phone at that point and see, reiterate what I have to take care of for the day, and then get started with my day. So I would just say starting your day with self-care. Starting your day on the mental positive of what you're going to bring to the table. I challenge myself and I say, whose life can I help change today? Whose life can I help change today? Because if I'm changing somebody else's life, they're changing mine. So that's a win of the day. That's a true win of the day. And a good friend of mine used to always tell me all the time, Mark, just win the day. Just win the day. Don't think about too much. Don't get too excited. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Maintain your consistency and just win the day. So I'm up at 4:30. I don't touch any cellular device. I don't touch social media. I don't do any of that until around 7 o'clock in the morning. From that point, I've had a phenomenal workout. I've gotten back in tune to the most important piece of furniture inside of everybody's home, which is your mirror. And I've reshaped and reformulated the mindset that I need to have to be successful, because I can't invoke success on anybody else if I'm not ready to go. So that's what I do.
Brilliant. So working out, reflection, don't touch social media, and think about, again, the 1%, and think about what winning the day looks like for you and trying to stay on that even keel. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll find that poem and I'll include it in the show notes, because I would love to read it too. I've never heard of it or read it, so there we go. And if people want to know more about your work, Mark, I will, of course, again, include the links in the show note. But how should they contact you? How do you want people to access your podcast? Anything you want to share finally with listeners?
Well, thank you so much. You can go to my website. That's the process, marksmith.com. You go to my website, right there at the very top, you can actually click on any one of the social media links, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram. You can see several of the YouTube videos and a couple of the YouTube movies that have been created. So make it quick, simple. Down at the very bottom, if you like to dialogue with me, you want to have some additional questions, or are looking for a speaker to help change the culture, change your audience, whether it's virtual or in person, you can send me an email down there at the bottom. But more importantly, if you have any questions, if you're going through anything, if there's any type of acronym, I mean, I just finished one not too long ago, which was free. And I remember a young man asked me, he said, Mr. Smith, what does free mean to you? And I said, to me, I realized I was free when I finally released everyone's expectation. Finally releasing everyone's expectation. So these are the types of things that I kind of talk about. I tell them in story form, because everything that we're talking about or I talk about in my podcast, these are true stories. But there's also a clicker on my website, so you can actually see the date and time of the next show. And if you want to go and listen to any one of the shows, search Mark Smith, The Process. That's on iHeartRadio. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. And just connect with me. I love to interact with people. I love to share. And again, I love to learn. So I'm sure that the listeners who contact and connect with me, I can learn a lot from you as well.
Oh, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, opening up your heart really on this episode, and to the listeners. It's been such a joy speaking to you, Mark. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having me today. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a joy. Listeners, I really hope you've enjoyed that as much as we have. And do remember, tune in next week where we will be talking more about Men's Health Week. Until then, everyone, take care.
Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.